Happy Halloween, everybody. I think it's time to add some fright into your night, to tell you the horror stories of sports card investing gone wrong. The death tales of cards that are losing 90% in value and showing their card owners the way to their early graves. Are you ready to hear some gruesome facts about sports card investing? Let's go. Hello, sports card investors, and welcome to a very scary episode of Cards on the Table. Teapot Doug, I'm glad you guys came like I did in your Halloween outfits. I can see you put a lot of work into this. You do have your head bandaged, Teapot.
I
so
do.
Perhaps there is something gruesome going on up there.
I was working so hard and so late, I just couldn't even keep my balance at home and smoke my dome.
I like that. And Doug, maybe you are dressed up like a yuppie, showy sports card collector with your cool Bleecker trading hat on, like all of the cool kids at these sports card shows wear.
I just didn't get the memo. I had no idea I was supposed to dress up.
I mean, it's Halloween.
I'm going to call you...
One might assume on Halloween, I'm going to
call you Jefferig.
Jefferig.
Yeah. There's
that's right.
Girafferig.
Jefferig.
Geodude.
All right.
Jeff
All right. Enough of that. We've got to talk to the audience about something serious and scary and frightful today on this Halloween, and that is the tale of legendary cards in the sports card markets, including ones that we have invested in that have sent us tumbling towards an early death, it feels like, with some of these tales of cards like Mac Jones 2021 Donruss PSA 10, which one sad mortal spent $3,000 on that card a few years ago, and the most recent sale is $4.25. How about Zion? How about the fact that Zion Williamson's 2019 Prism-based PSA 10s at one point were selling for $934, and I know some of you out there were buying those. You guys were buying those.
They might say you were telling them.
I might have been telling them to buy those. And today they're worth $37, down from $934. But it's not only speculation gone wrong. Even the GOATs, even the stars had this happen to them. How about LeBron James' first Lakers jersey Prism card from 2019? In PSA 10, the Prism base at one point was $692, and today it's $13. And if that's not scary enough, how about the people that were spending $6,000 on Mike Trout's 2011 Topps Update PSA 10? Today that card is worth $821. These are just a few examples. There are even more horrific examples if we want to go look at Topps Project 2020, and perhaps even guys gone wrong in yesteryear. Players like, Greg Jeffries perhaps comes to mind as speculation gone wrong back in my childhood. But Teapot, Doug, my question for you today is, tell me a horror story from your sports card investing past, and then also of the players who people are buying by the droves right now. Which one is the scariest? Which one is going to send our viewers to the crypt? Let's start with you, Teapot.
I'll tell you about Lamar Jackson's Optic Hollow.
Ooh.
PSA 10.
This is a sad story.
PSA 10.
Why did this have to happen to Lamar Jackson? Two-time MVP winner, but his cards died. They died for a while there.
Yeah. And maybe a third, and maybe a fourth. Who knows? I bought that card at the near high point.
Okay.
The near high point a few years ago. I think I paid $2,200 something, 21 something, and I lost over $1,300 on that card. And then I just said, I'm not going to get stuck in this sunk cost fallacy, and I sold it.
Yep.
And it kept coming down, and now it's a little under $500.
$500.
I think.
a card that was
so-
over 2,000. Lamar Jackson, of all
I
people.
know. He's had a really good career. He hasn't won a Super Bowl. He's had a good career. That was a big miss. Another big miss, and this is one that just frustrates me so much. Wander Franco.
Oh.
Topps Heritage Chrome Gold Refractor, number to 5. It was a PSA 8. And it was a stupid impulse buy. I saw this thing on auction. It seemed way too cheap relative to Juan Soto, relative to Ronald Acuna Jr., relative to Fernando Tatis. It was low. And I was like, you know what? I didn't go out seeking to buy a big Wander card, but it was in June. And I bought the card, not this year, last year. And I bought the card, and then the news broke about him. And part of the frustrating thing with that one was it got hung up in eBay's brand new beta vault program. I was trying to play a fee game where I said I can buy this and then list it on a buy it now and make a quick $200-$300. I was sure of it. And I wanted to list it. And once I bought the card and I sent it to vault, it disappeared. It was nowhere to be found. And I had to try to go through the non-existent eBay support to get the card found. And I ultimately found it myself by Jimmy rigging their URL structure to find my own card. And then by the time I found it, the news had broken. It was too late. I said, I'm just shipping it on auction. And I lost $1,200 on that card in 2 months. And finally, Kevin Durant's Topps Chrome PSA 9 rookie card. I bought that card for $1,240. I sold it 2 years later for $210.
Ooh.
I thought it was at its floor. That was one that, like many, had gone so high. And it had come down, and it had started to do the dead cat bounce, and it was coming around, and I said, I think it's at its floor. I think there's no way it's going to settle in here. And then it just, and then he got traded to the Suns, and things didn't work out there, and here we are.
Those are some hard stories, Teapot.
Terrible stories.
Doug, how about you? You got one for me?
I've really never been crushed on card sales. That's not because I'm smarter than anybody else. It's because I don't spend a lot of money on cards. I've only bought a couple of 4-figure cards in my life. I've almost never spent over $500 on a card. It's just not the area I play in. But I certainly have taken some big losses from a percentage standpoint. 2019 football is probably what stands out to me the most. You know, going into the fall of 2020 when hype was at its maximum, I've owned several versions of Daniel Jones, of Drew Lock, of Gardner Minshew. To give you an example, around that time, fall of 2020, you could get a Prism base Drew Lock PSA 10 for around $400,
Ooh.
maybe up to $500. You want to take a guess where that's at today?
Probably around Mac Jones
$4.
territory.
$7.50.
$7.
Yeah.
That'd be around Mac Jones territory.
Daniel Jones was a $350,
Yeah.
$400 card, $15.
Even though he's still starting.
Yeah.
Barely.
Yeah.
Barely starting, but he's still starting.
Gardner Minshew still plays.
He
was
does?
a $200, $250 card. It's $10 now. So I held a lot of those. Not to the point where they are now. I didn't get that hurt on them, but certainly lost money on 2019 everything. Basketball, football. As soon as the bottom fell out of that big bubble we had, there's a lot of people left holding something.
And I am left holding 2 black 1-of-1s of Desmond Ritter.
There
My
it is.
Atlanta Falcons
Serious.
quarterback, former Atlanta Falcons quarterback, didn't work out the way that I thought it would. Bought those 2 cards last summer, going into last football season. Felt good about the Falcons. Felt good about Desmond Ritter's prospect to lead the Falcons into the playoffs last year. Nothing could be further from the truth.
What
He
did
got
we tell
benched.
him about those
Got
cards?
benched, I think,
I
2
warned
different
him.
times during the season. Got his coach fired. He got fired. Shipped off to Arizona. They fired him. I don't know. I think he's with Oakland or so. I don't even know. But I still have those cards. I'll probably sell them at some point.
Oh, you do still have them?
I still have them. Probably sell them at some point and take a big loss. Desmond Ritter's Prism Silver PSA 10 was selling for $314 right around the time that I bought those 2 1-of-1 cards. Today it's selling for $30. So,
Buy low.
Yeah. So the 90% haircut on the Prism Silver PSA 10, that might be about what I experience when I go sell my 1-of-1s. We'll see what that looks like here when I actually make a move on those
Can you
in
write
the
that
upcoming
off?
months.
Can you write that loss
I
off?
can write that loss off, and I will write that loss off. That's right. I will absolutely strategically take that off of my capital gains. That is for sure. What player now are people speculating on that you think is going to be the next horror story? Teapot.
You know who it is? Caleb Williams.
What?
Caleb
What?
Williams. The Bears are going to lose 9 of their next 10 games. They are going to finish 5-12. Williams is going to spend all his time in the offseason painting his fingernails and doing TikTok dances and not working on his play calling and his route reads and everything else. And the Bears have never had a good quarterback, and it's not going to start now. Caleb Williams.
Disagree on that one.
Caleb Williams.
Disagree on that one. Doug, what do you think?
I had a hard time coming up with an answer for this because a lot of the guys that are good right now, like a Caleb Williams who's good right now, maybe, because most quarterbacks at some point see that fall off after their, rookie season. But I have to kind of own this one, and I'm going to go with my Kentucky guy, Will Levis.
Yeah.
I think that there's no recovery. I mean, those cards have already crashed.
Yeah.
I'm not predicting anything, but there's no recovery
Yeah.
for those. He's just become a meme now. Him, throwing the ball from his knees or getting run over. Everything that he does, running over a guy on the side, everything he does now has just become a meme, and it's not in the good way. And I think anybody who might have bought any of those or still holding those, I think there's no recovery.
It all started with the mayo in the coffee and just went downhill.
It's a little rough out there. Another player it's a little rough out there for right now is Anthony Richardson. That's my pick, and I think it's only going to get worse. And maybe it can't get much worse because his cards are now down more than 50% since the start of the year. But I think he will become a Jamarcus Russell-like catastrophe. I really do. I wouldn't be surprised if he's not in the league in a few years. Now, he doesn't have the same off-field issues that Jamarcus Russell had, but his play on the field has not been much better. And he'll probably hang around the league for longer because of his potential and athleticism. But the fact that he's completing 44% of his passes this year is absolutely no surprise to me because I watched him play all 13 of the games and only 13 games that he played at Florida because he couldn't stay healthy and couldn't play more games for Florida. But in the 13 games he did play, I watched every single one and was constantly astonished by how he would miss the easiest of passes. He would make a freakily good athletic play that would become the ESPN top highlight of the night in their countdown, and then he would follow it by missing 3 screen passes where the pass was open and he threw it 8 feet in front of the guy or behind the guy or wherever.
Some 13-42 loss.
And then every single person nationally would see just the highlights and think this guy's some amazing athletic freak, and I would be like, he can't complete a 12-yard pass.
He's just a combine, darling.
It's weird. It's crazy. So I fear for Anthony Richardson. I hope I am wrong, but I don't think I'm wrong.
I guess the plus side is he's played very little football, so there's time to develop. He's young. He's 22. That's young compared to the other rookies.
It is.
And he's played like a dozen football games ever. So maybe he's got room to grow.
So you out there in the comments, let us know in the comments. Be truthful. Who have you lost the most money on a sports card? We want to read your scary stories on this Halloween. All right, one thing that is not scary is what Arena Club is doing with their slab packs. In fact, it's anything but scary. It's awesome. I myself bought a couple of their Ruby slab packs when they dropped last Friday. That was a lot of fun, and you should check them out tomorrow when they drop again, especially now because now they've got a new coupon code, SCI20, which is giving our viewers 20% off your first purchase of slab packs or anything else on Arena Club. Make sure to check that out. And tomorrow's drop is awesome. Their Ruby basketball pack contains a Luka Doncic 2018 Select Zebra PSA 10 rookie card. That's like an $18,000 card. And their football slab packs, the Rubies, you've got a chance at a Justin Herbert 2020 National Treasures True RPA BGS 9, a $20,000 card. And they're gearing up a pretty great baseball card as well. They're going to wait to see who wins the World Series game before they fully have announced that. But it's a lot of fun, these slab packs, and they're going live tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. Download the Arena Club app to your phone and then use promo code SCI20 for that 20% off. All right, guys, let's get to our next topic. I want to do a little trick or treat. We just talked about some players. I'm going to throw some player names out. And you tell me if putting money in this player today is going to be a treat for investors or if this player is a trick and that player is going to suck that investor's money away if they were to buy their cards. Let's start with Jordan Love. Teapot, trick or treat on Jordan Love?
What do you think I'm going to say?
I think
Jeff?
you're going to say trick. As
Trick.
a Detroit Lions fan, I think you're going to say Trick.
Trick. I almost picked him in the last segment to be the one to go down the most. 17th best QBR in the NFL this year. Not exactly great. He had one really good game with 4 touchdowns and 1 interception against the abysmal Cardinals defense. Aside from that, 11 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, one of the best offensive lines in the NFL, helping his cause a lot. When he is on the off chance pressured, which is almost never, he makes incredibly ill-advised throws down the field, which sometimes just happen to work out. Triple coverage, and some guy manages to catch the ball for 70 yards, padding his stat line, making it look like he's doing great things. He keeps getting injured. Let me ask you this question. Do you want a $780 Prism Silver PSA 10 Jordan Love, or do you want a Josh Allen Optic Hollow PSA 10 for the same price, roughly? Or do you want a Lamar Jackson Optic Hollow PSA 10 for $250 less?
All right, that's a fair. That's
or
fair.
a CJ
That's
Stroud
fair.
Silver for $586.
All right.
Love is going to come down. He's coming down. He's going to come down.
Okay.
It's a trick.
Doug, trick or treat?
Trick.
Okay.
Reluctantly, because
Bang.
he's not terrible. I don't think he's as bad as you think he is, but I do think he has a propensity of getting injured. I think he's playing in a really tough division, so I don't think a lot of team success in terms of playoffs is coming for him. If he's even able to play, because he does seem to get injured every third game or so. For those prices that you just said, I think it's an obvious trick.
I think he's got a really well-coached team, but I think he's about the 15th best quarterback in the NFL.
I think you're selling him short. I'm going to go treat. I think that the Packers are a great organization. They've had tremendous success over the last many, many years. They have the record of developing quarterbacks, so holding on to them for a very long time and having those quarterbacks go to multiple playoff appearances and multiple Super Bowls. And I think Jordan Love will eventually get there with this Packers organization. I think he's going to have a shot of winning some rings in his career. I like the Packers organization, and I think Jordan Love is going to be the captain of the Packers organization for the next 15 years. And so for that reason, I will go treat on Jordan Love. How about CJ Stroud?
I'm going to go treat right now on Stroud. And I'm going to say that because his prices are down 30% in the last 60 days.
Yes.
The Texans aren't playing fantastic football. There's still 10 games left in the season for them to play. They have a lot of potential to turn things around. The AFC looks super spotty right now. Like, the Chiefs are undefeated and look very far from dominant in anybody. They almost just lost to the Raiders. So the AFC to me seems like it's anybody's game on any given week. The Bills probably look like the best team right now. The Ravens one week look like the best team, and then they lose to Cleveland and lose to the Raiders. So I think the Texans are still going to be in the mix. I think they've probably got that division on lockdown unless the legend Joe Flacco continues to grow with the Colts. But I'm going to say treat at this point for CJ Stroud.
Trick or treat, CJ Stroud.
Treat.
Okay.
Yeah, his prices are down, and I don't really fully understand why. He's not done anything on the field that would deserve that. He's been a very good quarterback. His team has been good. He does need a healthy team. I mean, he lost Diggs with an ACL, and Nico Collins is still out. Joe Mixon missed a handful of games, and their team is so different without Mixon. When he's got a healthy team, they're extremely competitive, and he looks a lot better when his team is healthy. But I think that's the future for him, right? He's got a lot of pieces out right now. When that's all together, he's going to look a lot better. The team's going to look a lot better, and I think the prices come back up.
Tank Dell's your short-term treat.
Yeah, there you go.
That's true.
That's who you
He's
need to be
benefiting.
looking
I agree with both of you. For all the reasons you said, treat CJ Stroud. I think he and that team are going to be good for quite some time. Let's switch to baseball. A couple of the hot names this year that people were scooping up. The big name, the big rookie name going into the year, Elly De La Cruz. Teapot, trick or treat.
I don't know what to make of Elly at this point. I look at his performance. He's kind of an anomaly. He's kind of a unicorn. An extremely high K rate. He strikes out a lot, but then he makes up for it in this incredible speed. He can beat out infield, grounders and actually make it to first base. He's stealing a lot of bases. Stole a ton this year. If he can get that contact rate up a little bit, he has the potential to do really special things and stay in the spotlight for a long time. He had a great year this year, better than I anticipated, but his prices are still really high right now. And for that reason, I'm going to say trick, only because I'm a little cautious about the prices and where they are right now.
Yeah, he fell off a little bit at the end. At one point, it looked like he was going to get 40-40 this season.
Right.
He was on pace for that,
Yeah.
and then he actually fell pretty far short of
Yeah.
that. So,
Yeah.
Doug, trick or treat, Elly De La Cruz.
I've got it as a treat. I'm not a baseball guy. I don't know what I'm talking about necessarily. But every time I hear Ellie's name, it's because he's done something incredible. He's thrown a ball faster than anyone else. He's run faster than anyone else. He's hit a ball at a faster speed than anyone else. Whatever the case may be, he's doing these superhuman things. And I'm under the impression, you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, that the Reds made a nice hire with Terry Francona. Like
That's true.
that should
They
help
need
the
help.
organization.
I mean, they haven't really been very good for a long time.
Yeah, if that's a winning manager and if that brings the organization up,
Yeah.
that can only elevate Ellie,
true.
in my opinion.
I think Ellie's exciting. I think he's got a lot of good pieces. I'm going to go Trick only because there was so much hype around him and his rookie cards all year long.
Yeah.
I think that's hard to sustain. I could see him doing what Bobby Witt Jr. did, which was came out of the gate really hot, lots of hype, lots of excitement about his cards. His card market cooled off. He wasn't living up to whatever crazy high expectations people had for him. So his card market cooled off, and then it picked back up again as Bobby Wood Jr. had a really nice season, and he saw a lot of his card prices pick up again. I wouldn't be surprised if Ellie does that. Dips for a while, goes back up eventually. But I think right now he's still at kind of a high water mark. So I'm gonna say Trick on Ellie.
I'm excited to see his MLB debut patch auto.
Oh, it's gonna
hopefully
go for big
surface
money.
And what that goes for if it hits
exciting.
up an auction.
Paul Skeens, your old friend Paul Skeens, trick or treat, Teapot.
You know what? Jeff? I'm going to go treat.
What? You
On
are
Paul
not.
Skeens.
You've been so hard on Paul Skeens all season long.
What, that card went for 80,000 plus and then resold on Golden a few months later for what, 115, 120, the Superfractor auto? So that person's laughing at me, saying, I told you so. Maybe the same thing will happen with Ellie's debut patch. Paul Skeens, I'm so worried about pitcher elbow injuries. All of them. All of them end up having not one, but two Tommy John surgeries by the time they're 30 years old, and it just totally derails their career. It feels so much like the possibility of these high longevity careers is just dead. These guys aren't even allowed to pitch past the 5th or 6th inning, but when he gets out there, he's untouchable. He's on like Jacob deGrom level at Jacob deGrom's peak. That's how he pitches when he's out there. He's big. He seems to have good mechanics if he can stay healthy. And I'm just looking at now until the next year. He's done for the year. He can't get hurt right now outside of hopefully something freaky in the offseason. So I think there's still going to be a ton of buzz around him right now and going into next year. And his card prices have come down some. So I think he's a treat.
All right, look at Teapot changing his opinion. Doug?
Yeah, I've got treat, and it's almost verbatim what you just said.
Nice.
Very first thing I've written down here is, can he stay healthy? Guys that throw like that over a period of time tend not to, lately at least, right? We see a lot of the elbow injuries and the Tommy John stuff. He's dominant when he's out there, and if he can maintain that and he can stay healthy, he's exciting. As far as a pitcher can be exciting, that guy is. So, yeah, treat.
Yeah.
I told you on the show earlier this year, two things chicks like. They like the home run and they like the strikeout. The strikeout when you got the pitcher throwing the strikeout, they like that, and this guy brings it to the table. I'm going to go treat, not for the long term. For the long term, if you want to buy a card and hold it for 10 or 20 years, go put every single dollar into Nolan Ryan, not Paul Skeens, in my opinion, because Paul Skeens is never going to approach any of those career totals that Nolan Ryan has, just because of how different the game is today. But if you want to buy a card for the next 6 months and watch it potentially go up as we get into next baseball season and the hype builds again next April, yeah, I think Paul Skeens is a treat at this moment.
All right.
Let's do one basketball. Let's go with Wemby. Let's go with the biggest young name in all of basketball. Trick or treat right now on Wemby.
He's the trickiest treat of them all. A treat. He's a treat. He's actually fun to watch, albeit awkward to watch, but he's super fun to watch. He's a freak. A little bit inconsistent with the scoring in the first few games of the season, but still blocking 4 or 5 shots a game and doing the things he did last year. He's still incredibly young. Nobody can do what he does. Nobody has the upside that he does. He's a treat. He's a treat. And he's come down some, so.
I feel like I'm supposed to say trick here for a few reasons. One, how inflated his card prices are because of all the expectations that are baked in, this generational talent, and the amount of cards he has. We've talked about how many, slabs he's got out there. He's approaching top 10 all-time graded players.
Correct.
For those reasons, I feel like I'm supposed to say trick, but I want to say treat because because of all the upside that is there for this guy. And I think if he starts winning the trophies we expect him to win pretty soon, I think within a few years we could see him with MVPs, with as early as this year with the Defensive Player of the Year. And I think once he starts making the playoffs and having big impact, starts carrying his team in the playoffs, he's going to become somewhat of the face of the league. Somebody like an Anthony Edwards that everyone just gravitates to. So I've got him as a treat, but I could be talked into a trick.
I got him as a treat for the same reason, Doug. I really think the NBA wants this guy to be the face of the NBA. I got to meet him in person at an event last year, and I could tell you he's well-spoken, he's funny, he's personable, he seems to have his head on right, he seems to have a good team around him, he seems to be committed. Everything you want in the face of the league, I think he's that. And so for that reason, I think everybody's vested in this guy being successful long-term, so I'm going to pick Trick. Nice. Or Treat, rather. I'm going to pick Treat. Not a trick. I'm going to pick Treat.
Treat.
Let's do one hockey one real quick before we get on to our next discussion, which is going to be a fun one as well. But quick one on Connor Bedard, Teapot.
I'm going to say Trick on this. And the Blackhawks are really bad.
They're bad.
They're like the worst team in the NHL right now. And I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Right.
Hockey's really, it takes years to rebuild a hockey team. I've watched my Red Wings struggle with it for years. They're kind of middling now, like threatening a playoff spot maybe. And here's a crazy fact. In the last 180 days, Connor Bedard's Young Guns PSA 10 is the 6th most expensive Young Guns of any player in the last 180 days. And the pop count is over 5,900. Most of these guys, it's like 250 or less for all these other years. We know Upper Deck changed their strategy. They rolled out all the new parallels in addition to the base Young Guns in Upper Deck last year in Series 2. And his prices are through the moon. Total sales in the last 180 days, $662,000 just on that PSA 10 Young Guns card happened online. That's twice as much as Connor McDavid. David Pastrnak is the same price as Connor Bedard. By the way, has won a Stanley Cup. Fantastic career so far. One of the best puck stick workers and stick handlers in the league. And he's had just 6 sales in the last 6 months for his PSA 10. So hockey collectors like to lock these cards away. There's a ton of them now. Bedard's got a lot of pressure on him. He's played okay. His box plus minus is negative. He's in a really tough situation, and I don't know. He's still really young. I think he has a great career ahead of him, but I don't like the upside right now in his cards.
How about you, Doug?
He talked me into Trick. I don't know anything about hockey. I put Treat, so full disclosure, I did put Treat for one reason only, and that's because the hockey market as a whole has a lot of room to grow compared to baseball, basketball, football, and maybe even soccer to some extent. So I just felt like there was a lot of room for that entire hobby, that niche of the hobby to grow. So I said, Treat, why not? But I don't know anything about I had none of that information, so now I might change it.
I'm going to go Treat. The Blackhawks are really bad. You are right. I don't know that people in hockey care about that the same way that people in baseball card collectors tend not to care about the fact that their favorite star who they like to collect, that their team is bad.
The Angels were bad.
We saw Mike Trout's prices and Ohtani's prices through the roof when the Angels weren't making the playoffs. I think you could see the same thing with Bedard. Connor McDavid, the Oilers were bad for some period of years there. Now the Oilers have gotten very good over the last couple of years, but the Oilers were bad prior to that, early in McDavid's career, and yet people still called him McJesus and absolutely fawned over him. Now we'll see if Bedard lives up to the Connor McDavid level and hype. I don't know, but there's a lot of hockey collectors that still are very in love with this guy's potential. So we'll see where it goes.
If that Young Guns comes down 30% like Stroud's cards have in the next few months, then I'd say he's a treat.
Fair. Yeah. And it could very well. Okay, let's switch gears a little bit. We're sticking with the scary topic and theme for the day, though. I want to ask you your biggest card collecting fear. Doug, I'm going to start with you.
My biggest fear, it's always mailing cards, one way or the other.
Yeah.
I have had so many problems with the USPS. So many. And anytime, I've got cards that I'm sending off to PSA, scared to death about that. Cards that I've bought anywhere or from breaks or when I'm shipping out breaks, you name it, whatever the transaction is, I'm scared to death of the USPS, whether they're losing the package, whether it shows up damaged, and there's just nothing you can do about it. There's just a lot that can go wrong, and it seemingly does at a pretty high rate for me. Secondarily, grading. It's scary when you get into a big card, whether you're spending a lot of money to buy a raw card or spending a lot of money in an expensive break spot. You hit the card you want, but it has to grade well at that point for you to, make your money back at least and not lose money. And that's the other side of it, because grading can be so subjective. And It's out of your control. Two things that are completely out of your control, right? Cards going through the mail and cards off for grading.
Those could be very scary. What about you, Teapot?
The mail thing is by far and away the biggest fear. You should stop marking them like expensive cards on your package when you send it.
Dollar signs.
No, it's terrible. They get lost, things get damaged, they get stolen, all of that. And just having my cards stolen in general is a big fear, like being at a card show and just, looking down and go, oh my gosh, where'd my cards go? They're gone forever. So that's a big one. Another one is if I've been waiting for a certain card to surface for a long time and it shows up and sells before I even notice it on eBay, or anywhere, if I just miss it, a one of one or just something that hasn't shown up, or something that shows up and goes for a fantastic deal that I've been waiting an eternity for, that's another big one. I also hope I never find out that any of the athletes that I have serious collections of turn out to be scumbags. That's a big, that just stinks. If you're like, man, I liked watching this guy, and then I find out whatever. And then lastly, this is sort of unrelated to cards, but is like when you have a player you get really attached to, or you believe in, or you just enjoy watching them on your favorite team, and then they get traded. Yeah. That happened to me this year with Jack Flaherty. I was really enjoying watching a lot of his starts for the Tigers. He was having an awesome year. I completely believed in him going into the season.
Yeah, now you can watch him win a ring, Teapot. You should be happy for him. Watch him win a championship.
I am happy. And the Dodgers, LA is his hometown, so it's great. Maybe the Tigers will go out and bring him back, when he's looking for a new deal in the offseason. But and we got Trey Sweeney, but that just stinks. It just stinks. I'm chasing. By the way, if anybody has his clear or his superfractor or his platinum or any one of ones from Topps or Topps Chrome, please let me know.
I've got them all.
Because I'm chasing them. Doug's got them all.
All right, there you go.
And I'm going to damage them.
I think my biggest fear played out right in front of Doug's eyes a few months ago when I dropped my card case.
Man, yeah.
And I had about 80 slabs, or probably 800 slabs, hit the ground of the card show floor at Fanatics Fest. That was not cool. What I would say that my biggest fear kind of ties into that, which is keeping tabs on your cards and keeping them organized in a card show or trade night type of environment. And I've had, thankfully, I've never, at least to my knowledge, have ever had a card stolen or lost. Well,
I stuffed my pockets.
But I've always been fearful, and there have certainly been times when I had a big card on me in my card case, and then I'm flipping through my cards like after the day and I can't find it. And I'm like, oh my God, what the hell did it? And then it turns out it just got shuffled. Yeah. It was a football card that got put in the back of my baseball slabs,
Yep. Yeah,
row. Yeah.
Now I see where Harrison gets it from.
Yep. That's why Harrison has his
I just came up with a
chain to his wrist.
Really good idea.
Okay.
The next, your next stand-up displays slab strong investment. I just came up with an idea.
All right, we'll talk about that after. Okay,
about
final topic of the day, guys. Should we be scared by what Topps Now is doing? Because Topps Now has certainly seized the moment with all of these moment cards, but man, are they coming fast and furious. Freddie Freeman hits a grand slam after game one, or in game one, and all of a sudden he's got a dual auto chase with Kirk Gibson. He's also got the batting gloves that are going into Topps Now cards. Jaden Daniels throws a Hail Mary, and he's got his cleats, which are going into Topps Now cards. LeBron and Bronny take the floor for the first time, and now they've got a Topps Now dual auto chase, right? It all within like a week period of time. Is it becoming too much? Should we be scared of Topps Now just constantly kind of feeding into the moment of the hype cycle? Teapot.
I'm not scared.
You like it?
At all. I don't mind it. I think it's really cool for fans of that team or that player or that moment. And that's what sports are about. Sports are about moments. We look at the stats and the aggregates at the end of a career, but while you're living it, you remember moments. And I think that's what it's all about. And I like that they're capturing these things. The print runs get a little squirrely and crazy, and they're basically printing money when they do this, so good for them. But I don't mind it. I don't think it hurts anything. I really don't. I think it's just a cool collector card with some neat chases, some iconic stuff. We've talked about this before. I kind of wish some of this would make its way like into the sealed pack pulled products, and maybe they could do that. Maybe they could take the best 3 or 5 moments or 10 or whatever leading up to a print run during the year. Maybe in Topps Chrome Update, they push it out and they have like the top moments, and it's just like a specific parallel, like a case hit chase of the now card that they really do a limited release. That might be a kind of cool way of like tying that in as well. But overall, I definitely don't hate it. I think they've continued to push the envelope a little bit with it and do some fun things.
Doug.
Yeah, I mean, I think a little scary. We talked about this 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I said it at the time that it's starting to worry me how frequent these are becoming, and now it's getting a lot
Even
worse.
more than that, yeah.
Topps definitely figured out a formula. They were doing Topps Now cards to honor specific moments, and they were, I wouldn't say few and far between, but they weren't every other day. Then they started introducing the numbered parallels. Probably saw sales go way up with the numbered parallels. Very good idea. And now they've had an even better idea. These one-of-ones with these relics or these custom inscriptions, and print runs have gone through the roof, which means money has gone through the roof. But now they see all that money that they're able to print on demand, and they're just coming up with new reasons to do. Yeah, I don't think throwing a Hail Mary to win a regular season football game is that big of a deal. I don't know that we need a whole set dedicated to that, right? I think that's a reach, and I think that they're going to continue to keep reaching because they're continuing to print as much money as possible. I do think that can water down specific markets a little bit. I think overall it doesn't really matter. It is cool for a collector. If I'm a big Washington fan, I might go for that. Or if I'm a big Jaden Daniels guy, I might go for that, right? But I think overall, especially with like Wemby, right? He's got enough one-of-ones and cards out there. We don't need a Topps Now card every week for something new that Wemby's done.
Yeah.
Oh, 3 blocks in a game.
Yeah.
Here you go, one-of-one. It's going to come to the point where they're just pumping these things out almost daily.
Yeah.
I am getting a little concerned for card shops, and I'll say this selfishly here at Cards HQ, that they're taking all of these really cool moments and artifacts and they're selling them all direct.
Yeah.
And none of them are making them into the products that a consumer can walk into a card shop and buy. No one can pack pull this out of any type of release. And I hope they don't, I worry they're going a little far. I would love to see, as you said, a couple of those moments, a couple of those cards work their way into actual products that hobby shops are selling or that are sold at retail, so that that chase can work its way into those products, not just buying something on Topps.com.
Yeah.
So-
I'll tell you what they can't do, and I hope they didn't do this on the Jaden Daniels. We know they did this in the past. Don't Photoshop moments and call them Topps Now. Just don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't ever do that again.
Yeah.
That was a mistake. Whoever thought they could get away with that doesn't know how the
Not
internet
ideal.
works.
Not ideal. All right, what did you think of the episode, guys? What are your scary card moments? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget about the Arena Club slab pack drop tomorrow. Download the Arena Club app, code SCI20 for 20% off. And oh yeah, happy Halloween. Enjoy it tonight. Take care, everybody.
Watch out behind you.
Whoop.